This is ILM Circle, a learning workshop presented by the Islamic Speakers Bureau of Arizona, or ISBA. ILM stands for Intentional Learning for Mutual Respect, the foundation of what ISBA is all about.
Well, welcome everyone. Tonight we are in for a real treat. We have a marvelous speaker. My name is Michelle Marion, and I am one of the volunteers with the Islamic Speakers Bureau of Arizona, and I really appreciate your attention tonight. And we're looking forward to your questions as we go through the presentation. Tonight's ILM Circle is titled Muslim Bosniaks in North America. And our wonderful speaker that has graciously agreed to enlighten us is Imam Sabhudin Ceman. He is a Grand Mufti of the Islamic community of North American Bosniaks. And he serves over 64 religious communities and organizations throughout North America. He has been in the role of the Grand Mufti since 2018 and is currently serving his second term. Prior to becoming the Grand Mufti, Imam Ceman had held the role of head imam of the same organization for 6 years. Before becoming the head imam, Imam Ceman held a couple of important key roles simultaneously. The role of the Imam of the Islamic Center of North Phoenix since 1997, and the General Secretary of the umbrella organization, the Islamic Community of North American Bosniaks since 2008. During the long tenure of holding these two key roles, Imam Ceman created a vision for what is now known as the Islamic Community of North American Bosniaks. After stepping into the role of the head imam and now in the role of the Grand Mufti, Imam Ceman works on strategic initiatives that connect these various communities in common goals, strengthening the religious aspects while also maintaining strong cultural values and working toward developing tools and projects for future generations. Imam Ceman was born in 1970 in Bosnia-Herzegovina and was born into a family of many generations of imams. His father, his grandfather, both were imams. He attended the Gazi Huzrev Beg Madrasa, the oldest religious educational institution in the Balkans, post-graduating in 1989, and started working as an imam until the war in early 1992. At the onset of the aggression, Imam Ceman, along with thousands of Muslims across the country, was taken into the concentration camp by the Serbian military. Imam Ceman endured many months of torture. However, he survived and later arrived in the United States for medical treatment. Imam Ceman holds a bachelor's degree, graduate master's degree, and his PhD in Islamic theology from the same institution, the Graduate Theological Foundation. He's married and is the father of 2 sons and lives in Glendale, Arizona. And we are very, very honored to welcome you tonight for this fascinating topic and presentation. So, Imam, I turn it over to you.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, and peace be upon you all. Thank you, Michelle, for introduction and moderating this ILM Circle tonight. The topic that I should be covering tonight, it is a topic that I don't think I can cover it in 1 hour. So I will be giving short information and introduction to the Islamic community, first of all in Bosnia-Herzegovina, and then Islamic community of Bosniaks in North America. I believe that through my talk on this topic, you might come up with certain questions, and you're more than welcome to ask those questions, regardless of at what point of my presentation tonight I am. I was thinking in the beginning to do the presentation, which would probably concentrate you more on that. But I believe that nowadays, at the time that we live, and this social media and this virtual world that we live in, the human contact is what we are truly lacking and missing. And I hope, and even in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said that He created us from a male and female and made us into the nations and tribes so that we may get to know each other. I believe that even though we have the best possibilities to contact anyone in the world, we are becoming more lonely than ever because of the human contact is missing. And also the science states that 72% of our language is actual body language, and we are lacking that in communication. So for that reason, I did not choose a presentation. I will be just talking to you from my heart and from my mind and give you the information that I have. And hopefully it will be interesting for you. And hopefully will give you some information on the Muslims in the Balkans or in the Western Hemisphere or in the Europe. One of the important things that I believe is to give you, I need to give you the introduction how come there is Muslims in the Balkan? How come there are Muslims in the Southeastern Europe? The first contact with Islam in the Balkan area, in the country where I'm originally from, Bosnia and Herzegovina, was in 8th century, where was contact with Andalus in the Spain, where is golden age of Islam in the Europe. But that contact was made through the trade, and it wasn't significant. Significant contact with Islam came with Ottoman Empire, or Ottoman Empire conquest of the Balkan region. And the conquest lasted several decades, more than 6 decades. But finally, the Ottoman Empire conquered the Balkans, and with that, the Balkan region, also Bosnia and Herzegovina, in 15th century. In 1463, was the whole Bosnia was actually conquered. By conquering the Bosnia, that's the first contact, significant contact with Islam as a religion and also as a culture and as a tradition. At that time in Balkan area, which was the Christian country, we had Orthodox Christians, we have Catholics as Christians, and we had known a Bosnian church from the people which is called Bogomils. The significance of that church is that they did not accept the Pope in the Rome, and they did not accept the Orthodox Christian teachings. They did not accept any of the symbols of the religion. They did not hold the cross as significance. They believed that there is no one in relation between person and the God, and they were specific in that regard. And it is said that they even practice in their lives all 3 religions, all monotheistic religions practices. So there it says that even before the coming of Islam, they would offer the prayer 5 times a day. They would practice something from Christianity, something from Islam. So in the 15th century, when the Ottoman Empire came, that's when in significant numbers, people who lived at that area start accepting Islam. It is said by some of historians that was the closest to them to the Bosnian church believed, because in Islam, we do not have mediator between us and the God, and everyone is responsible for their own actions in regards to our faith, our practices, and so on. Even it is said that some of Orthodox Christians and Catholics also converted to Islam at that time. There are some economic reasons, there are some cultural reasons. The new civilization was brought, new lifestyle was brought, and so on. So by the 17th century, more than half of population in Bosnia and Herzegovina were Muslims. One of the things that one of my professors in the school, in the madrasa, which Michelle mentioned, which is Gazi Husreberg Madrasa, which is also the oldest educational institution in the Balkan area, which was formed or established in 1530. And that was also a religious institution and has continuously been a school. Right now, it's on the level of a high school with also some of the religious teachings, but consistently was working as an educational school since 1530. My professor, one of the professors, when he would describe us, he would say that we as a Muslims, we are Eastern in our hearts, but we are Western in our minds. We constantly live in that type of the environment, which is multi-ethnic, multi-religious. And for example, if any one of you visited the Sarajevo or been to Bosnia, you can see that in the same courtyard, you can find the mosque, the synagogue, and the church. In one radius of half a mile, you have the mosque, the synagogue, the Catholic Church, the Orthodox Church. Establishment of Islamic community, which is important to mention because that will bring us here to North America. Bosnia and Herzegovina and Balkans was under the Ottoman Empire until 1878, when the Austro-Hungarians came and took over the control of the Balkan area, including the Bosnia and Herzegovina. At that time, the Khilafah or Caliph of the Muslim world was in Turkey. And Shaykh al-Islam, which is the highest authority for the Muslims in the world, was also in Turkey. Hungarians wanted to separate the Muslims in Bosnia from the Ottoman Empire or the Khilafah. In 1882, the Shaykh al-Islam gave the Manshura, which is the decree, to the Mufti of the Muslims in the Bosnia and Herzegovina or the Balkans region. Since then, we have the Islamic community with Manshura, or our highest authority, which is continuously being elected. So right now in Bosnia and Herzegovina, we have Islamic community in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which covers all the Muslims in Bosnia, in neighboring countries, Slovenia, Croatia, Serbia, Montenegro. Even the Hungarian Muslims consider themselves as a part of the Islamic community of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and all the Bosnians that live throughout the world, whether in Australia, in North America, or Europe, we have our highest authority, which is called Ra'isul Ulama, which means the head of the ulama, the highest authority, or someone would call it Grand Mufti in these terms. We have the hierarchy as far as the whole Islamic community in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Muslims from Bosnia and Herzegovina, they are Hanafi school of jurisprudence, and they are Maturidi school of Islamic theology. Majority of the Muslims in the world are Hanafi school of thought, but these are the two school of thoughts that Muslims in Bosnia follow. In the Islamic community in Bosnia and Herzegovina has about 4 million Muslims, which is 2 million living in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and the other two are either in neighboring countries or diaspora, which includes the Europe, North America, and Australia. As the Muslims, Bosniak Muslims, we always had the hierarchy. As I mentioned, we have our Ra'isul Ulama, or Grand Mufti, which has also the Council of the Muftis. And we also have a General Assembly of the Islamic community, which approves or appoints or elects our Grand Mufti or Ra'isul Ulama. Right now, the way our Islamic community in Bosnia and Herzegovina is established is that we have the Ra'isul Ulama as the highest religious authority, and we have the Muftis or Grand Muftis. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, we have 9 Muftis because there is 9 different regions of where the Muslims live. Then we have a Mufti for the Europe, and Mufti for North America, and then Mufti for Australia. And we have a council of Muftis, which are the Shura or advisory board for our Ra'isul Ulama in all religious matters. Maybe one of the interesting thing is to mention about Islamic community of Bosnia and Herzegovina or Muslims from Bosnia, that we are unified and work as one. We have a hierarchy and recognition of our highest authorities. In Islam, we are all invited to be unified. It's a fard or obligation for all of us to be as Muslims unified. I wish that is the case with us, but the facts are saying something different. As far as our Islamic community of Bosnia and Herzegovina, we have our hierarchy and we have our authorities that we respect and follow. We also have the bylaws. For example, bylaw of Islamic Center of Community, which is unified. We also have the bylaws for the Majlis or regions. We have the bylaws for the umbrella organizations. We have the bylaws for the Islamic community. And we all follow those rules and regulations, which makes us operate or be in unity as far as our practices of Islam. Maybe another thing that it's important or maybe significant to mention comparing to other Muslim communities, as a Hanafi school of thought, it is believed that the khatib or the one who gives the sermon needs to have silsila or connection all the way to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, and that decree or manshura was always given by the Shaykh al-Islam or those to whom he has given authority or manshura. So in our Islamic community, Islamic centers, Bosniak formed Islamic centers, every imam that can give the sermon or khutbah has to have the decree or manshura from our Raisul Ulama Grand Mufti. For that, he has to have finished the school that can be imam and be qualified to perform those duties. So all of the imams that work in our Islamic community, they are with the manshura or the decree of Raisul Ulama, they can be imams in our Islamic centers or our communities. I throw at you so much different information. Maybe you can have the questions on that. So I will now go to the part of North America or the Muslims, Bosniak Muslims in North America. First generations of Bosniak Muslims that came to United States in late 19th century and early 20th century. So maybe interesting or funny fact that it is even on Titanic, there was known that there was 4 Bosnian Muslims who were coming to United States and they did not survive. The second interesting thing that it's not mentioned in the history of the Muslims in the United States is we all know that it's mentioned that the first mosque or first religious organizations of the Muslims in United States was in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, which was formed in 1914. But the Muslims, Bosniak Muslims from the Balkan region, which is former Yugoslavia, which covers Bosnia, Montenegro, Serbia, Croatia, Slovenia, and etc., and with the Turkish Muslims who immigrated to the United States, they registered the first Muslim religious organization in United States, and it was called Jamiatul Khairiyah, and it was registered in Chicago, Illinois in 1906. So it is known that the first Muslim religious organization that was registered in the United States, it is dating in 1906 in Chicago, Illinois, which is called Jamiatul Khairiyah. The chapter of that was also registered in California in 1908. One of the main reasons why those organizations were registered is to help people to be able to practice their own religion, and also in the case of death, to be to have the services as the Muslims. All of those organizations, they have membership, and all of those members, by the membership, they were taking care or they were helping each other. Continuation after the First World War, Second World War, in many Bosnian Muslims came to United States for the better life, for the hope to have a better life. Specifically until after 1945 and the Second World War, Yugoslavia, which Bosnia was part of, the country Yugoslavia. As we have United States with 51 states, Yugoslavia had 7 states, and one of those states was also Bosnia and Herzegovina. And while we have a President Tito, which was in a communist regime, it wasn't easy to be a Muslim. For example, it was mentioned that I went to the school for Imam in Gazi Husrebeg Madrasa. When I elected to do that, it was known that I cannot continue my education in any other aspect because it wasn't recognized at that time as a school. So when I decided to go for the Imam, I knew that that's the direction that I can only go. Otherwise, that education will not be accepted in any form in former Yugoslavia. So many people, for the freedom of practice of their own religion, they immigrated outside Bosnia and Herzegovina. So in the span of 1950s to 1990s, we have about 30 to 40,000 of Bosniak Muslims that they immigrated in the United States. And they try to make their own communities so that they can practice their religion. So it is known that the first mosque, Bosniak Mosque, which still exists, was formed in 1967 in Chicago, because the majority of them would come to Chicago first and they dispersed through the United States. And that mosque still exists in Chicago. And that was the only mosque that was known until 1991. The second mosque that was formed in the United States, it was in 1991 in the city of New York, where we have a large number of Bosniak Muslims who are not from Bosnia and Herzegovina, but they are from the Montenegro, one of the states of Yugoslavia. It is said that it's about 20,000 of people from just 2 cities. They immigrated to the United States and they formed the mosque. So those are the only 2 communities of the Bosniak Muslims that we have until the aggression, genocide, and war in Bosnia and Herzegovina. It was also Bosniak Muslim communities in Canada, and it is said that is about 50,000 of the Bosniak Muslims that they live now in Canada. Their mosque was formed in Toronto, and that was in 1982. And we have now 5 mosques in Toronto area, because after the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina, many people also immigrated, the same as I did. And it is known that from 1993 to 1997, there was a first wave of refugees or immigrants from Bosniak Muslims that they came to the United States. And then the second wave was from 1998 to 2001. It is mentioned that I lived in Bosnia. I was in concentration camps. And one of the conditions to be released from concentration camp is you have to go to the third country. Even though I, and as all other males, for example, my whole family, my father, my mother, my sister, we were all in concentration camp. My father was executed in concentration camp, even though we were all taken from our own homes. But when I was released, the condition to be released is you have to go to the third country. So we could not go back to our own homes because we were not allowed. In that manner, many Muslims had to immigrate to Europe or to the United States. So it is said that about 300,000 of us immigrated from 1993 to 2001 to United States. So there is about 350,000 to 400,000 of the Bosniak Muslims that they live now in North America. Our centers, since we came to United States, many of the people still have so much trauma of what happened. Many of them did not even know where their immediate members of the family are. Are they even alive? For example, I mentioned my father. Even though he was killed on August 4th of 1992, the mass grave was found in 1998 with another 123 people who were just executed. And many of us, when we came here, we did not know anything about our own members of the family. Many of us have different experiences, different ways to coping with what happened. even though we were living for thousands of years together, that many of us still cannot believe that that happened, what it happened. So when we came here, we needed our help. We needed to help each other. And that's how we started forming our Islamic centers throughout the United States. From 1995 to 2003, we established 15 other Islamic centers throughout the United States. And in 2003, we formed the umbrella organization. And until now, we have 64 communities, 60 in the United States and 4 in Canada, who are members of our umbrella organization. Our umbrella organization has 4 regions or 4 majlises, which has every one of those regions have minimum of 12 Islamic communities. And we have the 4 head imams for all of those regions, and then umbrella organization, which I am a president of, and I am the Mufti of the Bosniak Muslims in the United States. It is said that since 2012, I was head imam until 2018. As we have the hierarchy and have the bylaws and rules and regulations that we follow, in 2018, Islamic community in Bosnia and Herzegovina decided that this is the region of Mufti of North America. I was appointed or recommended by our Grand Mufti or Raisul Ulama to be Mufti for the Bosniak Muslims in North America. And in our General Assembly, I was voted and approved for that position. And when you are recommended, approved, then you have to give an oath on the duty that you will perform that duty. So I was given oath in 2018, and my term, which is 5 years term, expired this year in April, and I was again recommended and appointed for the second term. Interesting thing that we can say, it's not authoritarian control of the Islamic community. Even our Raisul Ulama is elected by the members of the Islamic community. And our Raisul Ulama or Grand Mufti can be Grand Mufti for 2 terms. One term is 7 years. So he can be elected and he can be reappointed once more. After that, we elect another Raisul Ulama or Grand Mufti who will lead our Islamic community. There are certain prerequisites that any person can be recommended or appointed for a certain position. In the same manner, I mentioned that as Mufti, we have 2 terms, 5-year terms that we are appointed. And after that, another person will be appointed. So it is a continuation. It is a way of dealing with the times or issues that we live in, so that it has a continuity and has an approach, new approach or fresher approach to the conditions and situations in our communities that we can deal with. So I throw so many informations, I believe, in a short time, and I try to do as much with intention so that you may ask the questions that maybe are interesting for you to find out as far as the Islamic community. So I will give a chance if there is any questions that I can answer. If not, then I can give you some more information on our communities.
Imam, we do have a couple of questions from one of our sisters. Zarina has 2 questions. The first, are you aware of any significant interaction between the Bosnian Muslims and the Nation of Islam and or the African American Muslims? And I'm thinking, there's a Chicago connection here. And I think that we're a little curious about, is there any collaboration?
As far as the collaboration, we know of the Nation of Islam, we know of the community of African American Muslims in this country. We also represent only 2% of the Muslims, which are from the Europe. So we are a small community. We are open to communications and working with any other Islamic community. one of the things that made us, and which is in a way hard for us, is that many of the people, when they see, because we are white, even though I live in Arizona, so I don't look white, but we are, many of us sees us as converts to Islam, even though we have centuries of living in Islam. One of the things why I see bad, we also have the library, Ghazi Usrebek Library, which has over 100,000 of written records on Islam. We have imams who were imams in the Kaaba, in the Mecca, that they are Bosnians. We have also Shaykhul Islam that was Bosnian. We have so many prominent scholars that they are originally from Bosnia, but we never consider that as a part of importance to be stressed from where are you. As far as this, what Sister Zarina asked, we also, when we came here, we also lived just as the Muslims who are, as I mentioned, Hanafi school of thought in jurisprudence and Maturidi school of in Islamic theology. And when we came and we met so many other Muslim communities, many of our members are not so free to interact or to discuss or to have or understand the differences of practices that we have. So our connection, I believe, as far as the Nation of Islam and as far as African American Muslims, it is the best in the Chicago and then in New York area. The other communities that we do have contacts, we do have projects that they're together, but not on the scale that we all as Muslims would like to have, that we all work on many things together. It's usually we all struggle on our own to establish our own efforts and works. That is one of the reasons why I also invested, and many of us who live here invested so much to form unity, at least among our own communities, so that we have the joint projects and that we do everything together. For example, we even have a Sunday school. We have unified books that we use. We have unified program. We have unified lessons. So we tried, at least whatever we do, that we do it together. So hopefully that will transcend in work and efforts with other communities. I hope that we will be the good example as far as that, even though many of us are not as far as the contact or communication involved as much as I would like to be. I will give you the best example. When I was only imam here in Phoenix Valley, I had more communications and contact with our mosques and centers here in the Phoenix Valley. But since I took this responsibility and traveling so much, I am kind of lost of all of that communication and the contact.
Thank you. And Sister Zarina has a couple of more questions, but I saw Sister Muna's hand up, and so I'm going to pop back to her. Her hand's down now, but just in case you wanted to ask your question.
Yes, thank you, Imam, for joining us and for this enlightening conversation. I often say that, Muslims in the US are often looking for ways to be Western and Muslim, forgetting that that's not a new thing, that, African Americans have been Muslim and Western, and Europe is not only Western Europe, that there is old indigenous European Muslims that can, serve also as a template. I think one thing that that the European Muslims and African Americans share is that they will always be asked by immigrant Muslims, when did you convert? Unfortunately. My question to you is, it's really interesting that the structure, that's something that I wasn't aware of, the hierarchy. What are some of the specific things that the muftis or there's different levels of hierarchies are responsible for, besides issuing, a fatwa or a religious decree? What functions do they serve in their communities? And also, what is the relationship for example, for in North America, the relationship between the Mufti for the Bosnian community and the Fiqh Council of North America?
Thank you for the question, and I agree with everything that you have stated in regards to that, in regards to the European Muslims or African American Muslims. To a certain extent, I can understand that because it is an issue of our own lack of understanding of each other, and I hope in the future will be better as far as that. And it is a two-way street. It also needs to be improved from our side. So when I say this, I do not mean it's just one-sided. It's something that we need to work on with each other. As far as the muftis, and as far as when you say the hierarchy or the whole structure, for example, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, we have 1912 communities that they all work, and 1912 communities in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Then we have communities in Serbia, Slovenia. So it is over 3,000 communities that they are under the umbrella of Islamic community in Bosnia and Herzegovina. As far as that hierarchy, it is not just the fiqh or the Council of Mufti is not just there to issue the fatwas. It's to deal with every aspect of the life of the Muslims in their communities. We all believe and say that Islam is not just a religion or the practices, it's a way of life. So there are so many different issues that we deal with, and there are so many different responsibilities that we should take upon. The one aspect that I believe of the hierarchy that it is good is that when we are all individually, we have certain pains or certain issues that we believe that should be worked on. And so many times we go in so many different ways, so many different aspects. And in many times we confuse our own communities by choosing which of those efforts to support. Why I believe in that hierarchy is important is to prioritize the issues and the things that should be jointly dealt with. There are issues that we individually deal as human beings. There are issues that individual communities goes through. There are issues that individual regions goes through. There are issues that certain countries go through. So I believe in that hierarchy perspective. It is important to understand the issues or the problems that they are arising and prioritizing in dealing with those issues or the problems, or having the certain structure to help the people how to deal with certain issues. We as human beings, we all have our own opinions, and in many cases we forget to deal with the issue just because of differences of our opinions. We allowed our differences to make us not do anything. And for that perspective, I believe the hierarchy, it is important because it streamlines the ways how to deal with the certain issues, and it'll always be those who will support it and those who will not. So I wish that even here, we as Muslims in North America, we deal with the issues jointly, or we work with each other as far as the dealing certain issues with the certain issues. As far as the fiqh Council of North America, I haven't been part of that yet. Definitely, it is important to be part of that. And I do not mean just that I become a part of that fiqh council. We have the 4 regions, we have 4 head imams, and I would like our representations to be in that fiqh council, because they will be able to present or express the issues what our communities goes in those certain regions. I do not believe that one person can represent majority of the people, because that's a single opinion. I feel that I am more informed to represent not my opinion, but the concerns of the communities, if I am aware what it is going on in those certain communities. Sometimes I believe that that is the issue why we are not able to accomplish as much as we should be able, because we become with our own individual opinions and our own individual efforts. And we all expect everybody to support me in my opinion or in my effort. It should be joint understanding of the whole issue and prioritizing what things could be done and what's the best way to have them done. Because sometimes we can do something with the good intention, but not necessarily that can give us the results that we are hoping or expecting. Even though God will reward everyone for sincere intentions and efforts that they do. But I believe that we should all try to work together more. I will be part of the Fiqh Council of North America because since I became a head imam for these 10 years, we were working administratively to make ourselves as a whole, as one unity. So when we say that this is what we believe or what we will do, that all of our communities will jointly do that. It is no effort if I just come as a person and become a member, but there is no communities that they stand behind that opinion that is not mine, but it's opinion that represents the community.
Thank you. Two hands are popped up. I think that Brother Muhammad's hand came up first. I apologize to Brother Ahmed if that's not the case, but I think that Brother Muhammad's hand came up first. So if you'd like to ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Assalamu alaikum, Imam Sabhudin. First thing I wanted to say, I miss you, brother. I miss you, really. And I wanted to ask you if you are going to be this Friday at your mosque, so I can come and see you, because I have a lot that I need to ask you about and chat and catch up.
Inshallah, it's great to see you. I will be in our mosque this Friday, but I am not imam in the mosque. We have imam there, but we can pray, and then after that we can sit and talk. I would like to catch up too.
Inshallah, I will see you this Friday, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Thank you.
And Ahmed, we can take your question now.
Assalamu alaikum, Imam Sabhudin. Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. I think Brother Muhammad Sharqawi made it easier for me. I actually have been a couple of days ago in your mosque, and I wanted to meet you. I came specifically to meet you, and I found the wonderful Imam Osman. So yes. Thanks a lot for having such a wonderful Imam. So I think I will be this Friday at your mosque to meet you, inshallah, as well. Inshallah. We need to catch up, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Inshallah.
And I do have your phone number, so if you do not mind, I'll be catching up with you over the phone, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Inshallah. If I do not reply, just leave me a short message, because there's so many calls, and as soon as I can, I will call back. I will not ignore it.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful. And I want to pop back to another question that Sister Zarina has posted. Do you notice any difference in the role of women amongst the Bosnian Islamic leadership versus other Muslim communities?
If Sister Zarina asked me that question 10 years ago, I would say no. But now I believe that there are certain differences that we feel as far as the role, even though in the Islamic community in Bosnia and Herzegovina and our culture and tradition, the Muslim women were not involved as much as in the work of our Islamic or Muslim communities. Now that is not the case. For example, in our Riyasat, which is executive, a part of our Islamic community in Bosnia and Herzegovina, we have a department for the marriage, and the head of that department is the sister that is leading that department. One of the interesting things that I can say that in our Islamic community in Detroit, we have two of them. In one of that, I believe that is the one progression that maybe Sister Zarina would be interested to know, is that on the previous election, we have the terms of our board members. We re-elect our board members. And in the previous term, the president of the board, the secretary of the board were sisters, which is a good thing. And as far as I know, since 10 years ago, I'm keeping track of that. So far, we had 6 sisters that they were actually presidents of the board of our communities here in North America. So there is more and more involvement. It is sometimes hard due to the culture and due to the certain perspective on the life. What are the responsibility of the male and the female? But alhamdulillah, I believe that is slowly changing and having the impact that it could in our own communities. I don't know if that satisfied Sister Zarina question in completion. And I hope she's driving safely.
Thank you, Imam Sabhudin. I miss you too.
Same here.
Thank you. And then she has one follow-up question also. Would you say that the Bosnian community mosques and centers are open to all in the Muslim community?
Definitely. The perception, it might not be from so many, but definitely all of our centers, they are open to everyone, to every Muslim. It is against our own faith and belief that the mosque cannot be open to anyone, not just Muslims, but even to non-Muslims, but specifically every Muslim who wants to perform or do their worship, it's open to all of them. One of the things that may differ as far as that is exactly the way the whole center is run, that someone might have perception of that. But for example, I will give you that it is like that in our center, where I've been imam for 22 years and now is Imam Osman, imam at the mosque. 80% of the people who come for our Jummah prayer are non-Bosnians. During Ramadan, we have iftars every night for the Tarawih. It's more non-Bosnians who come than actual Bosnians, and we have the similar cases in our Islamic centers or communities throughout the United States. Sometimes this effort where you might not feel that way is that fear of not knowing or understanding the differences of the school of thought and the practices, because we have experienced that sometimes even the brothers come, and I have been through that a lot, where the brother would come to the masjid and say, Imam, you cannot call Iqamat with 4 times saying Allahu Akbar, it's only, and Ashhadu, it's only one, that trying to tell me that we are praying wrong. So because he comes from his country where they practiced in a one way, and he never see the other practices. And sometimes even our members, maybe they are shy as far as to get into that conversations and discussions. And as I said, sometimes we have that safeguard because many people see us, oh, we are converts. We do not know much of the religion. We need to be taught the proper way of practicing religion. But those are the issues that we have to face. And if I can mention, I saw the picture and he just muted himself. Also on this presentation, we have one of our imams from the Bosnian communities. It's Imam Emsal, Effendi Memic, who is imam in our largest mosque in Utica, state of New York. But he just, I don't see his picture right now, but he's also participant in this presentation. There he is. Assalamu alaikum, Imam Emsal.
Wa alaikum assalam.
All right. Well, thank you. I have a question, and it goes back to what you were saying about your attendance at in the madrasa. When you chose to go to the madrasa, you had said that effectively your educational pathway was going to be closed a bit. Was that due at the time to like residual elements or even maybe still current elements from that window of time in communism, where religion was considered secondary and, you know, something of history, and we wanted, you know, they wanted you to be more of the communist ideology. Is that why what happened?
At that time, that's exactly what happened. Even for me to choose to go to the Islamic school would not allow me to continue education at any other university, because my school is not recognized. But it's not only for me who chose to do that, it's for all of those practicing Muslims who declare themselves as a practicing Muslims. They did not have the future in any type of the businesses in the communist regime. They were just the laborers and the workers who were able to do the hard work, and that's it, and mainly living from the farming or from the land that they have. For example, I'll give you another example. I was born in 1970, as it is mentioned, and many of the people misunderstood the whole war or aggression or genocide that happened in Bosnia, is because when I was born, I was undecided. I had no nationality, because I had the only option to choose that I am either Serb or Croat, which I'm neither one of them. I was not able to be the Bosnian. So in 1974, finally they gave me nationality. But the nationality that they gave me, which is wrong, they gave nationalities that I can write myself as a Muslim. So when I write my nationality in 1974, 4 years after my birth, by nationality, I'm a Muslim with capital M. But my religion, by my religion, I'm a Muslim with the small m. So, which is wrong. And in Bosnia and Herzegovina, we should be all Bosnians with the Orthodox Christianity, Catholic Christianity, and Islam. We also have Judaism in a small number. We have agnostics, but they are in a smaller numbers. And right now, even in Bosnia, 51% of the population in Bosnia are Muslims. 33% or 34% are Orthodox Christians, and they call themselves Serbians, even though they should be also Bosnians because they live in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And there is about 13% that they are Catholics, and they call themselves Croats, even though we all should be Bosnians because we live in the country of Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Okay, thank you so much for clarifying that for me. Sister Zarina has a couple of questions, and could you tell us if the Bosnian Muslims are more open to cross-cultural marriage or less open than other Muslim communities? And kind of following with that is, are there structured premarital education components as well?
If I don't know Sister Zarina, I would guess that she's a lawyer, just based on these questions. But I know her. I do not think there is much difference as far as that. As Muslims, we are open to different cultures and religions. In Islam, the male can marry a non-Muslim. The female should not be married non-Muslim, which is also the same in the other monotheistic religions. Well, what Sister Zarina asked is, this comes the culture, or this comes from the culture, or more the pressure of the parents, or wish that they are coming from the same part of the country. I believe and I hope, and I do not think that that should be a great issue. I will say one thing that we brought as our culture, and which is great in Islam, that I see different living in this country, in the United States, is the family. In Islam, the family is important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, there are only 4 things where they are binding with each other. Aminu wa amilu salihat. Believe and do the righteous deed. Akimu salat wa atu zakat. Pray and give zakat. Give alms. They are connected. But one thing that is connected, which is so important, is Allah ta'budu illa iyyah wa bil walidaini ihsana. Do not associate anyone with God, and be good to your parents. It is put in 2 places in the Quran. These 2 things are put all together. So if you are having proper belief, then you have to do good to your parents. And in Islam, we are in our family structure built that we all have to take care of our parents. One of the things that when I came to this country, I noticed many families are separated. The parents, they stay by themselves. They go to nursing homes. Their children continue with their own life. In our Bosnian culture, our parents stays with us until they die. My mother lives with me, and my mother will live with me even in my family. Even if I die before her, she will still be taken care of in my family because of the religion and because of the respect or the responsibility that we have toward our parents. So based on that, Sister Zarina, many prefer to come from the same background and the same culture. But I personally believe if you have a person, Muslim, the one that has a proper responsibility towards God, regardless of the country or the background, that's a person that you can marry and you can live with, because if they have a proper relationship with God, most likely they will have proper relationship with their husbands or their wives or their families and their parents. So it shouldn't be an issue, but that's an issue in all of our cultures. It's not just with the Bosnians. It's from all around the world, and we are becoming the people of the world. So hopefully, the way this society goes, I don't think that will be issue. Maybe in our lifetimes still will be, but in future generations, I do not think that will be as issue as it is right now. And the second part of her question is that premarital counseling, or I do not. What was exactly the question?
So the exact question, do you have a structured premarital education in the community?
We do and we do not. For example, we are having annual gatherings of the Bosniak Muslims every year, and it will be this Labor Day weekend in Atlanta. 2,000 to 3,000 of us come, and one of the lecturers is exactly the chief of the department of the marriage institution, and she will be giving the lecture, and she will have the lecture exactly on the concept of the marriage or responsibilities in the marriage from both part of the spouses. So we do have education. Imam Amsal, his wife is Hafiz al-Quran, and I believe she gives the lectures on the marriage or pre-marriage counseling or advices. And in all of our communities, we try to give that counsel, all that lectures. I will use the chance to mention something that it is maybe good. This year, every July, we take our teenagers from United States to Bosnia and Herzegovina for 2 weeks. It is for the age 14 to 18, and all of them are actually born here because we live long time, and we take them to Bosnia, offer it to our members to take their children. All they have responsibility to bring them there. Everything, the boarding, the school, the food, the trips, education, everything is taken care of our umbrella organization. And I can mention for 10 years, as what Sister Zarina mentioned, we have the marriages that they come out of that school program that we have. My own son, older son, he got married, and my daughter-in-law, they met in that school in Bosnia on 2 weeks. So when we ask or when we say about our own children, how to help them, we cannot just talk about the issues or the problems. We need to offer the alternatives. And this is one of the alternatives that we are trying to offer to our youth, to our younger generation, so that they can get to know each other and they can meet with each other.
Thank you. Sounds fascinating. And we have time for a couple of more questions. And Brother Ahmed has been very patient with this one. Islam can work with and without a hierarchy. What is the main core idea that is bringing the Bosnian hierarchy together?
I agree with what he said. It can work with or without. And it is based on the principle of the first generation, so first the community. Our Prophet ﷺ, when he immigrated from Mecca to Medina, what did he form? He formed a community. And in that community, you have to have the structure or the rules and regulations how to follow. And some has to represent those rules. Someone has lots of times we just ask for our rights, but we do not want any responsibilities. I believe when the hierarchy structure exists, that gives you the responsibility, but that also gives you your rights. Individually working, and the second argument for it, why I believe the structure is important, jointly we can accomplish much more than individually. And the third reason why this might be off the topic, but what I see as our issue, and I don't think just as a Muslim issue or Islamic religion, I believe that the religion or religious organizations, they should be leading society in spirituality and morality and protect the human beings or the persons from blindly following their own desires and wishes and protect them from their own downfalls. What I see nowadays that is an issue, and that's why I believe we need a structure. I see that, or this question would be maybe for all of you who are here, if you agree or not. If the religion follows the society fashion, society trends, society wishes and desires, and sometimes even goes against its own holy books, I believe it loses its own legitimacy and it can become obsolete. Nowadays that we live, society tends to follow the passions or desires or the wishes of the people's heart. And we are witnesses through the ages, people's hearts change. God does not change. What was wrong 3,000 years ago is still wrong. I believe if we as a people of faith or people who are, or religion, continues to follow the society, what I'm afraid of, then we can just become charity organizations. Nothing else, nothing more. And I believe that the faith and religion, it should be more. It should lead us in our morality and spirituality. And nowadays, in the time that we live, the social morality is on such a low level. And when we lose our morality and our ethics, then to me, it becomes the question of our faith. I don't do wrong just because I will be punished for it. I don't do right just because I will be rewarded. I don't do wrong because it's wrong. And I do right because it's right. And we know the saying of our Prophet ﷺ, how the Muslims should be. If everyone is doing good, you do good also. But if everybody is doing bad, you do not do bad. We tend to follow the trends of the society. And sometimes I'm even afraid that we allow our own religious teachings to be bended or deviated from just to be in trend or in time that we live in. And I believe the structural work or structural or joint efforts in that regard can accomplish more than just our individual efforts, because then those becomes just individual voices. They can be heard or not heard.
Okay, thank you. And I think our time has come to a conclusion. I don't want to keep anyone beyond what we had initially arranged, because you have other commitments, I'm certain. Before we close, though, I want to say thank you so very much to Imam Ceman. We're really grateful for all of your insights tonight. I apologize to the couple of folks that we didn't get to your questions, but we will grab these and we can ask Imam Ceman maybe to send an email response to them and then share them with you. I also want to announce a couple of upcoming very important programs that the Islamic Speakers Bureau of Arizona will be hosting. Of course, the 9/11 Valley-wide food drive is coming up. It's ongoing. If you go to the Islamic Speakers Bureau of Arizona's website, You'll have more information on where to make donations for that. Next month, our ILM Circle is on September 26th, and it's called Family Ties, Muslim Teachings Concerning Rights and Duties. And then we have our ILM Circle planned for October as well. It's October 24th, and the topic will be on Howard Thurman. So we look forward to seeing you back, hopefully at both of those upcoming events. And we really thank you tonight for your presentation and your participation. So thank you so very much, and have a good evening.